What's up, everybody? Going down this weekend, we got UFC Vegas 114, Emmett versus Vallejos, and this is going to be my full card breakdown and predictions. Let's rock and roll right into this thing. First fight of the night, we got Pereira Rodriguez versus Sam Hughes. Now, this is a rematch. This is the rematch that everybody has been banging on the tables for. Everybody's been protesting on social media. We got to get Pereira Rodriguez versus Sam Hughes to run it back in the Apex in front of a sold-out crowd, in front of thousands and thousands of people. And there's conversations behind the scenes, right? I thought I heard something about Hunter Campbell saying that there's a possibility that there's a ladies BMF title on the live. I'm messing around, man. Listen, this is actually going to be, I feel like, a pretty high-paced fight, right? And the first time that these ladies got after it, it was a really close fight. And Pereira did get the decision nod, but I feel like it could have went to Sam Hughes, right? It was kind of you favor the takedowns that Rodriguez essentially did nothing with, or the volume and the forward pressure of Sam Hughes. So this time around, I'm going to ride with Sam Hughes. I think that she's able to go out here and win a very, very close decision. I think it's going to be a split decision. I think it's going to come down to the wire. While I think Pereira is actually the more technical fighter, and I think that she's maybe the more aesthetically pleasing fighter to watch, I feel like she's more well-rounded. It's just the fact that Sam is just a motor that doesn't stop. She keeps moving forward, right? Sam Page, I don't know. I just feel like she's going to put it on Pereira this time around. She's going to realize what she did in the first fight. Like, Pereira didn't really do a whole lot, right? She landed some shots here and there. I know that maybe Rodriguez is the more dangerous fighter and Sam's not the most dangerous, but I feel like there's something to be said about the cardio of Hughes in this fight. I feel like it's going to be maybe 1-1 heading into the third, and that's where Sam is going to pull ahead. She's going to have her foot on the gas, moving forward. It's going to look good to the judges, and she's just going to mix up the shots quite a bit better, especially later in the fight. I mean, Rodriguez is coming off of a really nice win. I feel like this is actually a really good win against Sousa. She's won 3 out of her last 5. So, I mean, she's pretty good, right? I feel like she's the more technical fighter, but the more technical fighter, especially in WMMA, does not always win if someone can come out here and push a pace. I know Sam Hughes has a slight reach advantage. She really doesn't use it that well. She just kind of crashes the boards, gets into the phone booth. The Dudakova win, I feel like, is actually a solid win. Again, a split decision. All the Sam Hughes fights are very, very close. She doesn't really do a whole lot to separate herself. And beating Shauna Bannon, I feel like we all saw that coming because Bannon is very one-dimensional and she's just kind of an overhyped prospect that literally can only strike. But again, it was a solid win for Sam Hughes. I feel like she's made a little bit more improvements than Pereira has since the first time around. I'm excited for the highly anticipated rematch, and I think Sam Hughes gets it done. I actually think this is going to be an interesting fight. It'll be high output. I'm going with Sam Hughes, forward pressure and volume to get this one done. And even if Rodriguez takes her down, I think Sam will pop right back up to her feet, and that'll even drain Rodriguez's gas tank even more. Give me Sam Hughes to poke holes in that Pereira gas tank. Next, we got Elijah Smith versus Su Young Yu. I like this fight, actually. I think that this is an interesting fight because we get to see Elijah Smith get tested here. Now, you could say, well, we saw him on the Contender Series, beat Aaron Tao, comes into the UFC, gets a kind of a grizzled veteran test in Vince Morales, who I know is not a world beater, but Vince Morales has shown that he could be kind of a tricky dude to deal with, man. A little, tricky customer. He's savvy. He's crafty. His submission game is pretty good. And on the feet, he's not bad. So I feel like Vince Morales, to me, he gives Su Young Yu a very difficult fight. The one that I think Morales, I don't know that he would win, but it would be very close. So again, not a easy debut for Elijah Smith, right? And then goes out there and drops Kazama with the Batista bomb, man. He went out there and pulled out some WWE type maneuvers, got put in a triangle, boom, and just slammed him. I mean, it was absolutely violent, channeling his inner Rampage Jackson, and that was a crazy highlight back in the day from Rampage, man. I mean, that was violent from Elijah Smith. And the thing about Elijah is he's 23 years of age. His father was a fighter in the UFC, I believe, right? Elijah has that kind of factor to him to where he is just a menace in there. He is ferocious, and he's in there to hurt people, right? There's some fighters, and I know that sounds weird, right, because they're a fighter. Of course you're in there to hurt people. There's just some dudes that have a little bit more of a ferocious edge to them, and Elijah Smith, to me, is one of those guys. And I feel like in this fight, he's got a good ground game. His wrestling is good. He's got a beautiful blast double. He doesn't have the greatest of control, but if he needs to get a takedown, he can get one. I think this fight is going to come down to Smith wanting to keep this on the feet, because when you look at this is a guy that, he's coming over from road to the UFC. He's had some close fights, right? And most recently, picked up a win over Long Zhao, which, that's a pretty solid win, because Long Zhao is just kind of a Terminator that moves forward, can put volume out there, throw a bunch of leg kicks. His ground game is solid. So that's not an easy, out against Long Zhao. But I think that this is going to come down to you looking to kind of outstrike Smith on the feet, because I do think that you has maybe a little bit more of a dynamic arsenal with the striking, but I feel like Elijah is more powerful. His hands are better. And I think that you is going to look to blend the takedowns behind the striking. You're going to see you look like he's going to kickbox. He's going to throw some shots out there and then look to dip underneath when Smith covers to try to take him down and work some of his ground game. Because we've seen you is solid on the ground, man. He's got a well-rounded game. He's got some good submission skills, but I feel like Smith is going to be ready for that. I feel like he's going to be able to outscore him on the feet with the boxing. I feel like he has the power on his side, and I feel like his ground game is good enough to be able to neutralize what you is able to do. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see Smith mix in some takedowns and put you on his back and land some ground and pound and maybe find some sort of stoppage. But I'm going to side with Elijah Smith to get this one done. But I'm going to say by decision. I feel like this is going to be a decently competitive fight. The rounds are going to be somewhat close, but it's going to be pretty clear that Elijah Smith gets this one done. I'll say 30-27. I'll say a clean sweep for Elijah Smith. I think the boxing, the power, and the wrestling, I think he can just kind of neutralize what you is able to do. But you never can count out you, man. He's well-rounded on the feet. His ground game is good. He's got some submission skills. So I feel like this is a little bit of a test for Smith, but one that he should pass with flying colors. I'm high on Elijah Smith, man. He's dangerous. He's powerful. He's got that ferocious attitude where he's coming in here looking to push the pace and put people away. I like Elijah Smith a lot, man. I think he works you in this fight and gets it done. Next, we got Beatrice Mesquita versus Monse Rendon. Bia Mesquita. So if you don't know, now you know. Dana White segment for you. If you don't know, now you know. Bia Mesquita has a super high-level jiu-jitsu game. She is very, very credentialed in the jiu-jitsu world. She's very well known, and she is an elite jiu-jitsu player. Now, having said that, we see a lot of fighters that have these crazy grappling backgrounds, especially more specifically jiu-jitsu, right? We see fighters like Marcus Buchecha, who's very credentialed. Now, not to say that they're as credentialed as Mesquita, but they come over and they tend to struggle a little bit with adjusting to the MMA world, right? Because obviously it's not a flow grappling match. It's not a jiu-jitsu roll. It is a fight. So we got striking, we got wrestling, we got all these different elements being thrown into a fight. And one of the worries that I've had for Mesquita throughout her career is the fact that how is she going to be able to kind of morph her MMA game? And what we've seen is obviously her bread and butter is going to be to get the fight to the floor and get to her jiu-jitsu because she's absolutely elite there. But we've seen throughout her career, she's almost 35 years of age. So she's not some prospect that's in, 25 years of age here. Like the time is now. Right, so you can only kind of slow build her so much before, she's creeping up there in age, right? She's a little bit older of a prospect, but over in LFA, she was just tearing through girls, man. Going out there, tearing through all the women that they basically have, right? And just dismantling them on the ground, right? Comes into the UFC against Ali Axiva, gets to her back and is able to sub her. This, to me, is very, very clear. I don't think Rendon is very dangerous whatsoever. Of course, on the feet, she's probably a little bit better than Mesquita, but that's not saying a whole lot because Mesquita's striking is not that great, but I will say it is getting a little bit better. Again, that's not where she wants to be. She just kind of throws out some pitter-patter shots to get you to cover up so you can duck underneath, take you down. And what I like about Mesquita is her wrestling and her overall ground game is really starting to kind of come together. She's not just some straight jiu-jitsu player who's just laying on her back pulling guard, right? That's not what she's doing. She can crash you up against the fence, get a hold of you, get her hands locked. I feel like her wrestling has came a long way since she first kind of started in the MMA world. And I feel like Mesquita is going to make really quick work of Rendon. But I'm going to say a second round submission. Maybe it happens in the first round, but I'm going to say second. I feel like the first round, she's able to get her down. Rendon is going to be very, very defensively responsible on the floor. She's not going to take any chances. And then in the second round, Mesquita's going to get her down again. Then that's where Rendon's going to start to panic a little bit, being like, well, I lost the first round. I'm about to lose this one. I got to do something. And she's going to scramble, and that's when Beatrice is going to be able to submit her. So give me Bia Mesquita here. I know I'm going a little too long for this fight for a breakdown. Pretty cut and dry. Mesquita, way better on the ground. Rendon, not dangerous whatsoever. May have a slight edge on the feet. If she could keep it on the feet somehow, Rendon, of course, could go out here, outstrike her, win a decision, maybe find a stoppage. I like the improvements that we have seen from Mesquita as an overall MMA fighter, and her ground game. Obviously, the submission game is as elite as it gets in women's MMA. Give me Mesquita to just dominate Rendon on the floor. The minute she takes her down, Rendon's not getting back up. Next fight, we have Luan Lacerda versus Hector Sosa. Just love Sosa. Oh, hey, man. I like Hector. I keep wanting to say Hector. Hector Sosa. I like this dude a lot, man. Coming over from WOW FC. This is a dude that when you watch him fight, it makes you go wow, right? Goes on the Contender Series, puts on a really nice performance against Max and Lee. And I think that this is an interesting puzzle for Sosa here, though, because I know that Luan Lacerda, it's just kind of easy to overlook him. His striking, it's kind of spazzy. There's not a lot of method to the madness, right? He just kind of throws out these whippy little kicks that seem like panic to me. I don't know. Like the way that Lacerda kind of operates on the feet, it's very wild. It's very unpredictable, which can be very dangerous. But that's not where he wants to be. His game is getting the takedowns, getting you to the floor, and putting you in bad positions, causing scrambles, and being an opportunistic submission grappler. So if he could get the fight to the floor, I think that he can find some success. The problem for Lacerda in this fight, while he's looked pretty decent over, his last several fights, he hasn't been the most active guy, right? And his last win was 4 months ago against Simon Oliveira, who is absolutely not UFC caliber, in my opinion, something I've been saying for a while. But if you look at the Blackshear fight, when you can shut down what Lacerda does, man, you can get this dude out of there, right? And okay, so he lost to Cody Stamen, a wrestler, not the most dangerous guy. And then Damon Blackshear's pretty good. He had the ground game to be able to deal with Lacerda, and he's better on the feet, right? And I feel like in this fight, Sosa is so much better than Lacerda on the feet, and the leg kicks of Sosa are nasty. This dude, he will chop trees, man. He will absolutely obliterate your lead leg if you do not have an answer for it. And I don't feel like Luan's going to have an answer for it. And I feel like Sosa is just the better overall MMA fighter. I feel like if this is a straight, grappling roll, maybe Lacerda can get the better of him or it's closer. But I think Sosa is going to dust Luan Lacerda in this fight. I think he's patient in the first round, maybe a little cautious of possibly getting taken down, not wanting, Lacerda to kind of implement his game. But I feel like Sosa is going to invest in the lead leg, hinder the movement of Lacerda, make him more of a sitting duck, and then eventually going to work the body, bring a shot upstairs, and be able to TKO him and get the knockout, man. I think that Sosa's for real. I think he's a bright prospect, man, coming out of Spain, nasty power and everything he does on the feet. He's a very dynamic striker, and he fights well at all ranges. From range with the kicks, in the phone booth, he can, box well in tight, good knees, good elbows. He's a ferocious dude, man, and his ground game is actually, I feel like it's slightly underrated. Now, I shouldn't say, underrated because we haven't seen it in the UFC, but a lot of people like to talk about his striking. His ground game is actually very good as well. I think he sprawls and brawls, keeps it on the feet. Wouldn't be shocked if he even rocks Lacerda, follows him to the floor, and ends up getting a submission either. But I think it's going to be the striking of Sosa in this fight. He's going to come in with a chip on his shoulder. I think he absolutely dominates Lacerda in this fight. Batters the lead leg, makes him a sitting duck, takes him out with the boxing. Give me Sosa. I like Hector a lot, man. Love Sosa. Oh, man. Wouldn't that be cool if he walked out to some Chief Keef, man? All right. We got Vallejos versus Manuel Sosa. Now, we got another Sosa on this card, but spelt a little bit different. Man, Chief, are we going to have Chief Keef in the building? What's going on, man? All right. Back-to-back Sosas. Do I pick another Sosa? So the way that I look at this fight is I feel like a lot of people might look at this and go, oh, Manuel is just going to run over Vallejos. And I understand that because Manuel Sosa, he has all this hype, right? And his kind of claim to fame is, so he went out there on the Contender Series. He was losing this fight to Perez, where he was basically just getting out-grappled, and Perez started to slow down. And then Sosa put it on him in round 3 and was able to get him out of there. And the thing about Sosa's claim to fame was beating Mauricio Rufy, but not just beating him, knocking him out. So that loss that Rufy had back in the day on the regional scene where he gets KO'd, where you see him switch stances up against the fence, get trapped and knocked out, that was this dude, Manuel Sosa. And I feel like the UFC is trying to get Sosa into the rankings for maybe we get that kind of storyline where we get Rufy and Sosa down the line or whatever. But to me, this is pretty cut and dry. In the first round, Balaji Oki, he's very dangerous. He's a very dangerous dude in the first round. That's what we've seen in all of his fights. He's going to have a slight reach advantage here. But what we've seen from Balaji, right, had a very impressive Contender Series performance, gets the stoppage over Salvador, beats Timmy Kawamba, which has actually aged really well because I think Timmy Kawamba is really good. But it's the same story. Beating up on Chris Duncan, right, just kind of leaves his head on the hip. Duncan just kind of roly-polies him right into a guillotine. Right, and that's the craftiness of Chris Duncan, who's been on an absolute tear, right? Goes out there, beats Michael Aswell, who's a solid boxer. That's a good win. And the same story, beating the brakes off of Mason Jones, and then the ghost of Mason Jones passed, was able to weather the storm and strike back and find a way to get Oki out of there. So in the first round, Oki could possibly knock out Sosa. Now, again, Sosa's durable. He's a guy that's as durable as they come. He's gritty. He's tough. He's going to move forward and look to go bombs away and throw these big power shots. And he gets a little bit wild to where I could see Oki landing those good, clean, technical shots down the pipe. And we've seen Oki's takedown defense is actually pretty good. I know that, he got submitted by Duncan, but he didn't really get taken down. He just kind of left his head on the hip, and Duncan kind of pulled him into it. So Oki's shown that his ground game is solid. Maybe he looks to grapple, to slow down Sosa a little bit, but I don't think so. I think that this is actually going to be one of the most entertaining fights on the card, but I am going to side with Manuel Sosa in this fight, and I think he's going to end up knocking out Balaji Oki in the second round. It's quite possible that we get a knockout in the first round. Maybe Oki, is able to put it on him and kind of expose some of the suspect defense on the side of Manuel, but I don't know, man. Sosa's dangerous. He gets a little bit reckless, which makes me nervous, but you see him shifting, stances and throwing these big power shots, and his ground game is actually pretty good as well. He might have the advantage there. His submission game is pretty good. I feel like he's the more well-rounded guy, but I feel like Oki, especially early, is very technical. He can kind of sharpshoot down the pipe, which possibly could get Manuel in some trouble. I think Oki has success early, but we've seen Oki after the first round. He starts to slow down. The hands start to drop. He starts to he's not the same guy after the first round. So I think Oki has some early success, but Manuel Sosa coming out in the second round, he's going to be guns blazing. He's going to put it on Balaji Oki and be able to get him out of there and knock him out. I think Sosa is a very bright prospect here in the lightweight division making his debut. And this only loss was at Bellator to Archie Colgan, who I believe trains with Justin Gaethje and Trevor Whitman and Sanhagen and all those dudes out in Colorado. I mean, Archie Colgan, I know, he's a Bellator, man. Like, he's undefeated. I mean, I think Archie Colgan's actually really good. He's a good wrestler, pretty good boxing. So that's not like a horrible loss. Again, not the UFC, I get it. But I think Sosa, outside of that loss, he's beating everybody else. He's dangerous. I think he takes advantage of Oki slowing down after round one. Gimme Manuel Sosa in a action-packed barn burner. I think this dude's for real, man. He's fun to watch. Next, we got Chris Curtis versus Miktabek Orolbai. So for this fight, we head to the Ice Age. We're gonna get the all the way. Send me on my way. Send me on my way. I like to have fun with Miktabek Orolbai, man. I have been a massive Orolbai fan. I have been high on this dude. Listen, man, we're going way back to, whatever BC to the Ice Age for this one here. Miktabek Orolbai is a true specimen. And I say there's this element of, these fighters get in there and they're a little starstruck to be in there with Miktabek Orolbai. They can't believe that they are in the octagon with this guy. It's always a massive opportunity to fight Miktabek. I'm joking around, but listen, Miktabek Orolbai, this dude is one of my favorite prospects in the UFC right now. He's a marauder, man. Like, he is. This dude he reminds me in a sense of a more technical Benoit Saint Denis, if that makes sense. He just moves forward at a ridiculous pace, is not afraid of anything whatsoever, has no fear factor and regard for the fact that it's a fight. He just comes at you like a bat out of hell. Forward pressure, all gas, no brakes, will smudge you up against the fence. His wrestling is really good. His submission game is really good. And he has got some serious power in his hands. And I know when he first came into the UFC, he was kind of, bouncing around weight classes. He was, throughout his whole career, even before the UFC, it was like, this weight, that weight, this weight, that weight. And it was the same way in the UFC. And I feel like welterweight is absolutely his home. And we saw that, right? This fight here against Mateusz Rebecki, I can't remember if it was a catch weight or at 155, but I mean, this was an absolute war. This was a barn burner, man. This was one of my favorite fights, honestly, of all time. It was an amazing fight. Then goes out there against Tafik Musayev, easy domination, and was able to submit him. And then goes out there and completely obliterates Jack Hermansson, but that was a disaster for Hermansson to drop weight. I hated that move for Hermansson, but I think he would have lost to Orolbai either way, regardless of the weight class. Miktabek Orolbai is for real, man. His ground game, he's the complete package. But this, to me, is actually kind of an interesting test here because Chris Curtis, I think, is a really slick boxer. I like watching Chris Curtis fight, and we really don't see anybody, even if they beat Chris Curtis, make it look easy. So I think that this is going to be a very competitive fight. I think that Orolbai is going to have to work for this victory. The big thing that this comes down to for me as well is the fact that I don't love Chris Curtis at welterweight. I think earlier in his career when he was bouncing around, he's like at the PFL, I believe, right? He was kind of, in these different organizations, and he was at welterweight and middleweight, and he had a lot of success at middleweight in the UFC, right? Losing to some of the top guys, but, put on a great performance against Brendan Allen. I thought he got robbed on that fight. I thought he won it, right? So Chris Curtis is good boxing. His takedown defense is pretty good. It's kind of like Strickland, right? I know that they're real good friends. They train together. It's a similar style. They want to box. They can check kicks pretty well. They want to be on the gas with the pressure. Very good defense, very defensively responsible. But the problem is sometimes Chris Curtis can be rather low output. And with the weight cut coming down to 170 later in your career, I'm just not a huge fan of that. It's typically almost like it feels like the opposite, right? You're younger in your career. You're really cutting the weight, fighting in a lighter weight class. And then as you start to get older, now you're not going to cut as much weight and you kind of move up. Like that's just kind of, your speed starts to kind of dwindle maybe a little bit. The power's still there, so you go up. Where in this case, Chris Curtis is not the fastest guy in the world. At middleweight, he's got decent speed and he's got some power in his hands. But I feel like at welterweight, almost all those advantages go away. And we kind of saw that in the Max Griffin fight. Like if this fight was at 185, and I get that, Griffin's not an 85er, I think Curtis mops the floor with Max Griffin. I think he destroys him. And I know Max Griffin is, pretty shifty and moves well. But the moral of the story here is Chris Curtis, to me, this was maybe a questionable stoppage. I thought it was a decent stoppage because he clearly got rocked badly by Roman Kopylov. But Kopylov's a good kickboxer, right? I thought he won this fight against Brendan Allen and then a close decision against Marc-Andre Barriou. Again, pressure style fighter and Marc-Andre. Curtis got a slight reach advantage here. We don't see him utilize it the best. He likes to get into the pocket, that little kind of shoulder roll, that fun style. I like watching Chris Curtis fight, but I got to go Miktabek Orolbai here, man. And I think he's able to win this fight by a decision, but I think it's a close one. Right? Because Curtis he's durable. He's not an easy guy to put away. His takedown defense is okay, but I feel like this is going to come down to the fact that while Curtis is technical and he's maybe the better striker here, Orolbai, to me, is the more dangerous fighter all around, right? His ground game is good. He's got the submission threat at all times. He's got power in his hands. We saw that against Jack Hermansson. And the fact that Orolbai is very busy with what he does, I feel like he's just going to outwork Chris Curtis in this fight. But I'm not counting out Chris Curtis, man, because we've seen he's very good. We really haven't seen many people that I can remember. I mean, I know the Kopylov fight, Kopylov was outscoring him, but Chris Curtis is not an easy guy to just stunt on. So Orolbai's got a different kind of style, pressure, pace, grappling, submission game. He's very, very good on the ground, right? That neck crank over, I think it was Uros Medic, right? That wins age very, very well. Yeah, about 2 years ago. And now Medic is ranked in the welterweight division. So Orolbai's for real. He'll be in the rankings sooner rather than later. This is a grizzled veteran, tough testing Chris Curtis, but I think Orolbai is able to outwork him, smudge him up against the fence, continuously mix it up, keep Curtis guessing, which Curtis is already kind of low output. I feel like with all of the activity from Orolbai, the threat of the takedown, it'll make Curtis a little more hesitant, and then he won't even open up any more than what he already does, and it'll just cause him to be outscored. Give me Miktabek Orolbai to get this one done. Orolbai's for real, man. Next, we got Eric Anders versus Brad Tavares, and I typically like when we get these OG old head matchups in the UFC, and I'm not going to be a hater and hate on this matchup because I do like when guys are basically at the end of their career. I don't love when they get thrown in, to the Shark Tank against, where they're basically in the process of building a prospect and they, kind of feed these guys. I get it's part of the game. But when dudes have been around for forever, I like to see them get to fight each other, right? And that's kind of what we have here in Brad Tavares versus Eric Anders, but I don't know how you can be sure in who you're picking in this fight. This, to me, literally feels like a coin flip. And, I mean, Brad Tavares is maybe, I'd say the more technical striker on the feet. He's got better technique, better versatility with the striking, a better kicking game, right? Everything that he does looks technically more aesthetically pleasing than Eric. But we've seen Tavares, right? His chin's been cracked quite a bit. I worry about the durability of Brad Tavares. And he's one of these guys where the takedown defense has historically been pretty good, but I feel like at this point in his career, everything that Brad was kind of known for, being pretty durable, the takedown defense, and, just kind of banging it out on the feet, it feels like everything has slowed down. To where on the other side, you have Eric Anders, who, I like Eric Anders a lot. He played, linebacker at Alabama, and, he is a very good athlete. And Eric's style is, he's not particularly great at everything, but he's solid at everything, right? So he's not like a striking specialist or a grappling. He just literally kind of just blends everything together to make this, smudgy, dirty boxing, difficult kind of style to deal with if you cannot keep him at range, right? We've seen Aaron Anders take a ton of damage right back in the day against, I think it was Thiago Santos, Khalil Roundtree, right? But those are devastating power punchers and strikers. Brad Tavares at this point in his career, I just don't think Brad has the power and kind of the ability to keep Eric off of him, man. And if you look at this win 3 years ago over Kyle Daukaus, that's aged well, right? And again, this is 3 years ago to where if you run it back, maybe, Daukaus gets some get back. But, a close one against, Marc-Andre Barriou. Jamie Pickett got stung in that fight. Not a particularly great look, right? Stop Chris Weidman. The loss to, CLD, but CLD's for real, man. He's the dark horse, in my opinion, of the middleweight division. And, Brad Tavares went to a decision with Weidman. Knocked out by RoboCop, split decision with Jung Young Park. Beat Gerald Meerschaert by decision, right? Everyone now is basically finishing GM3. And then most recently getting knocked out by Robert Brisek. Like, I don't know, man. I don't have a lot of faith in this pick whatsoever. I don't know how you could. It's just a toss-up. It's kind of an ugly fight in terms of having some clarity. But I'm going to side with Eric Anders to win a decision. I think he's able to push Tavares up against the fence. I feel like at this point in their careers, while they've both slowed down a lot, I feel like Anders, he's more durable, he has more power, and he's just got this methodical smudge clinch game that I think is going to be able to wear on Tavares and be able to score, win minutes, dirty boxing, close, land some power shots. Maybe Anders can catch him with something, right? Eric takes one to give a couple. I feel like Tavares is maybe the more technical striker and the better overall fighter technically, but that doesn't always win you a fight. Anders has made the style work for a long time. I think Anders pressures him, pins him up against the fence, lands some short shots in close, maybe even takes him down. We've seen Eric's ground game is pretty solid. If he could get dudes down, he can control you. So I'm going to go with Eric Anders via close decision, maybe even a split decision. This is kind of an ugly fight. Both guys, to me, are definitely towards the end of their career, to call it to be nice. All right. Bruno Silva versus Charles Johnson. This is a good fight. This is a fun fight here. So I had a difficult time picking this one because if you lose to Charles Johnson and you're a stud prospect, the championship in the flyweight division is in your future. That's what we've seen, right? Knocks out Joshua Van. Now, to be fair, Joshua Van was having quite a bit of success, and it's the same story with Charles Johnson against these prospects. The prospects are having success / the fight is pretty close, and then later on in the fight, these prospects start to slow down, and Johnson never slows down. He's an Energizer Bunny, keeps his foot on the gas, and is able to put the output on these guys and find a way to get them out of there. We saw him do it to Joshua Van. We saw him do it to Lonnie Kavanaugh, and I picked him in this Kavanaugh fight. And then, outstruck Sumadarje. That win's actually aged really well. We've seen all the improvements that Sumadarje is making, right? Lost to Ramazan Tamirov, right? And then most recently gets knocked out by Alex Perez. And it's like, what is Charles Johnson's career, man? Like, how do you knock out Kavanaugh and Van and then get knocked out by Perez? Like, it's just mind-blowing. So Charles Johnson against a prospect, he's probably knocking him out. But against a guy that's like established, is he winning? And that's kind of what I'm juggling with here because stylistically, I think Charles Johnson, he should win this fight, right? He's got, 5 inches taller. He's got a 4-inch reach advantage. He does a great job switching stances. He's a tricky puzzle on the feet. He's really fast. He's got a great gas tank, man. Charles Johnson has a great gas tank, and it feels like he's one of these dudes like a Nate Diaz, right, where the opponent starts to slow down, and later in the fight, and Johnson is just getting started, and he starts to walk you down and starts to play that game where he's moving around and grooving and finding a rhythm. And I feel like if Charles can enter that state, he's going to be able to beat Bruno Silva in this fight. But what makes me nervous is Bruno Silva. I think he's more dangerous than Alex Perez, especially on the feet. And even on the ground, Bruno Silva's got a solid submission game. And I feel like his hands are pretty good. And Charles Johnson's slick, but his hands are low. His hands are low and he's hittable, and he's coming off of a knockout loss to Alex Perez a little over a month ago. And I know it wasn't like a brutal flatlining KO. Like it was kind of, knocked him off balance and, one of those shots that just kind of wobbles your equilibrium. So I don't take too much into that, but I am a little bit worried. But again, Bruno Silva's dangerous, man, right? Subbing Tyson Nam, knocking out Cody Durden, which that win hasn't aged all that great seeing the run that Cody Durden's been on. But again, getting knocked out by Cap, knocked out by Joshua Van. I think Bruno Silva is definitely live to get this one done because he's very dangerous. And Charles Johnson, to me, it's hard to pick his fights. He's very hit or miss. I'm going to side with Charles Johnson in this fight, though. I think we're going to see a good back and forth. It's going to be a close fight, but it's going to be the same kind of story of Charles Johnson in the third round is going to be sticking and moving. We're going to see Silva slow down just a little bit. And I know Silva's gas tank is all right, but I think he's going to slow down just a little bit, and Johnson is going to start to put the heat on him, and he's going to find a shot that's going to drop Silva, and we're going to get a TKO stoppage. So I'm going to side with Charles Johnson. I like Charles Johnson a lot, man. I feel like when he shows up and, has like a point to prove, I feel like he could come out here and ball in a matchup like this. And this is a big fight for Johnson. He's been around in the UFC for forever. He takes out these, impressive prospects. The UFC gives him a huge opportunity, and those are the fights that he often tends to fumble. So if there's a fight that he's going to lose, it'd probably be this one. But I'm going to side with Charles Johnson, man. I think he's slicker on the feet. He's got the power. He's a tricky guy. You got to figure out his range and his movement and his rhythm. But it does worry me a little bit with the durability. And Silva is dangerous everywhere. But I'm going to side with Johnson. I think he's fast. I think he's slick. I think he times, a couple shots with the hands, mixes in some kicks, and is able to stop Bruno Silva. And Charles's takedown defense is also pretty good. He's a scrambly rascal on the ground. Give me Charles Johnson here to get the round 3 KO. Next, we got Vitor Petrino versus Steven Asplund. Titty boy, 2 chains. I like this fight a lot. Now, my first reaction to this fight was I don't love the matchup for Steven Asplund. And I still don't love the matchup for Steven Asplund because I really like Asplund, man. Big Steve. I think that he is just a backyard scrapper. That's the way that I, describe Steven Asplund. Like, Masvidal on the scene, right? R.I.P. Kimbo Slice, one of the GOATs, man. Absolute legend. I'm a massive Kimbo Slice fan. I miss Kimbo, man. If you've ever seen those backyard fights, how wild those are. I feel like Steve Asplund is the type of dude to pull up and do something like that. Like, that's Steve Asplund. That's the vibe that I get. Is he the most technical fighter? No. Does he have a great ground game? No. But this dude is all heart, all gas, no brakes. And his journey is incredible, man. Like, his story is insane, right? Being, what was he, like 500 pounds and losing all that weight and getting himself in rather pretty good shape. And I know the skin's sagging, the tits are out, flopping around, all that stuff. I get it. But Steven Asplund's a dog, man. He is an absolute dog. And I understand that he lost to Denzel Freeman and got submitted a year and a half ago. That's not a great look because Vitor Petrino is definitely better than Denzel Freeman. But I feel like we've seen some improvements in the game of Steven Asplund, and he's training with Thomas Peterson, who just lost to Vitor Petrino. Now, to be fair, Peterson's a better grappler than Asplund, but Asplund's a much better striker than Thomas Peterson. And I don't trust Vitor Petrino, man. I feel like Vitor Petrino is maybe the better overall fighter here, but this is heavyweight. This is heavyweight, and I feel like Steven wants it a lot more than Vitor does. I feel like he does, and I don't trust Vitor Petrino's IQ, man. I don't trust his fight IQ. This dude dove headfirst into an Anthony Smith guillotine. Like, I mean, what are you doing? Then he goes out there and just gets punked around and brutally KO'd by Dustin Jacoby. And I mean, I get it. Dustin Jacoby, glory kickboxer, very technical on the feet. I understand that. Steve Asplund, to me, has volume. He has output. He has power. The biggest concern to me sometimes can be the defense. The chin is up in the air. He's got kind of that tall man defense and the ground game. I could see a scenario to where Vitor just takes him down and runs him over, submits him on the floor because he's got a better ground game. But I feel like if Asplund can survive the ground and Vitor does not get him out of there, maybe he clips Asplund with a shot. I feel like on the feet, Steven Asplund's going to tee off on Vitor Petrino, man. I feel like he is. He's got the output. He's got the cardio, which is rare at heavyweight, man. He's got a great gas tank. He's got great cardio. I feel like we saw that in the Sean Sharaf fight, man. The volume, the output, the Max Holloway of the heavyweight division. I'm going to take a shot in the dark here, man, and say that Steve Asplund gets this thing done. And I'm going to say it's by round 2 KO. I think he's going to come out like a bat out of hell, get in the face of Vitor. Vitor's going to take him down. We're going to be like, oh, man, here goes Asplund. He's going to get finished on the ground. He's just going to get controlled. And then you're going to see him make it through the round, Come out in round 2, guns blazing. Vitor Petrino's going to slow down a little bit. I still don't trust Vitor's grass tank. I don't trust his gas tank whatsoever. I don't trust Vitor Petrino, man. I know he's looked decent since coming up to heavyweight. He couldn't get it done at light heavyweight, was getting styled on by the guys that could actually move. Then he comes up and subs Austin Lane. Austin Lane is awful. He's not UFC caliber whatsoever. Steven Asplund would knock Austin Lane out in the first round, in my opinion. And then Thomas Peterson is pretty good. He's got a good ground game, but his striking's not the best. Asplund, to me, is a far better striker than those guys. Vitor's been picking on these, slower heavyweights. Now he's got a fast heavyweight with cardio, output, and actually some striking skills. I'm going to take a shot in the dark inside with my boy. I don't know him, but I like Steven Asplund a lot, man. Backyard scrapper, tough, gritty. I like everything about Steven Asplund, man. I like his vibe. I think Titty Boy goes out here and puts it on Vitor Petrino and melts his ass in the second round. TKO stoppage up against the fence and takes his will, takes his soul. I'm joking a little bit, but you know what I mean? I feel like Petrino's going to slow down, man. I feel like you see it with Vitor. When the adversity strikes, this guy's not the same dude. And it's very possible, again, he's the more skilled fighter. And like I said, I think that there's definitely the realistic option that Petrino just takes him down and Asplund's ground game does kind of suck and he gets ran over. But I'm kind of trusting in the fact he's been working with Thomas Peterson. I feel like he's going to be able to plug some of the holes, survive on the ground, even if he does get taken there in the first round. Petrino will slow down. He's put on all that extra weight to be at heavyweight. He's a big, blocky, muscular guy. I think that he will slow down. Asplund will put it on him and melt this dude up against the fence. Let's go, Steve Asplund, man. I'm going with Big Steve. I think he gets it done. I like Titty Boy. Next, we got Marwan Rahiki, Mr. Rahiki, versus Harry Hardwick. I entertain myself sometimes, man. Don't mind me. I'm going with Marwan Rahiki by a round 2 KO, man. I don't like Harry Hardwick. I don't know what it is. And I don't want my bias to get in the way. I think Harry Hardwick reminds me of Roger from American Dad with that head. This dude's got a giant head. And he looks like some cartoon guy that I'm thinking of that I can't think of off the top of my head. Maybe someone will bring it up in the comments. But this dude's got a giant head. He has got a fire hydrant for a head. And with that being said, he's a hard guy to knock out. He's a hard guy to put away. And what we've seen from Harry Hardwick is he's got grit, man. He's tenacious. He's got heart. And, he's not the fastest guy. He's not the most skilled, but his striking's all right? His ground game's pretty solid as well. Decent submission game. But I just rate Harry Hardwick as decent. And I don't know why his nickname is Houdini. Because there is no Houdini acts going on when it comes to Harry Hardwick. It is very straightforward. There is no magic going on here. There's no sleight of hand. There's no slipperiness. This dude's just going to walk forward into range like a heavy bag, get dotted up, and maybe land a shot and be able to put you down, or he's going to get a hold of you, take you down, and sub you. It's pretty straightforward. And to be fair, I feel like Harry's getting a lot of flack for this fight, which, by the way, this Caio Fernandez I've had as one of my prospects to watch, or dark horses. I can't remember what video I had him in. One of those. This dude is nasty. Caio Fernandez is one of the, dudes on the rise, man. He is nasty. Those calf kicks were hellacious. Was able to put him, drop him and get him out of there with calf kicks. Now, I think that was a last-minute step in for Hardwick, to be fair, as well. And Caio Fernandez is nasty. So that's not an easy fight, especially in your debut. And I would say that Rahiki is definitely an easier fight than Fernandez. But when I say easier, that's not particularly easy, right? Coming over from Cage Warriors, again, we know kind of pump the brakes with a lot of these guys. Marwan Rahiki has shown that his ground game is pretty solid. He's got pretty good takedown defense. I love this dude striking on the feet, man. He is fast. He's explosive. He's very creative. We saw that on the Contender Series. And Mulumba, he's more dangerous on the feet than Harry Hardwick. And we saw Marwan in a ton of trouble in this fight. He almost got knocked out. It was able to survive, was able to, make it back into the fight. He's got fast hands. Right? Takes a lot of influence from Izzy in his game. You can tell that with the stand switching, the hip feints. He's a very sophisticated fighter on the feet, and I love watching him fight. He is one of my favorite prospects coming up to watch, man. His striking is creative. It's beautiful. I love watching him fight, man. It's true art watching Rahiki, man. I appreciate this dude's style, and I think he styles on Hardwick. I think he stuffs the takedowns, keeps Hardwick at range, dots him up every time Harry tries to get close. I can't let him get close. I think Rahiki's just going to dot him up. I think his hands are fast. He's going to tag him up with the boxing. Great knees as well in close. Good sharp elbows. Dynamic spinning attacks. Got to be careful with the spinning attacks, though, because if you do that and Hardwick times it, that'll allow him to get to the back, be able to aid that into a takedown. I think Marwan goes out here, puts on a style-like performance, and stops Harry Hardwick in the second round, TKO stoppage. I like Marwan Rahiki. His striking is very flashy and fun to watch. I think he gets it done and has a great debut. Next, we got Andre Fili versus Jose Delgado. One of the guys that I've been high on in the featherweight division on the rise has been Jose Delgado, and I've picked him in every single fight since he has came into the UFC, and for good reason, because this dude is for real. And his last fight against Nathaniel Wood, I thought that this was a robbery. I don't have any idea how that was a unanimous decision. I thought Delgado, it was a close fight, but I thought Delgado pretty clearly won the fight. And now he fights a guy in Andre Fili who I don't want to say is like a similar style matchup to Nathaniel Wood, but it's maybe the same kind of story here where you got a well-rounded technical guy that's been around for a while that could potentially pose some problems for Delgado if Jose cannot get him out of there early. Because what we've seen from Touchy-Feely is when he shows up, he looks like he's a guy that could be ranked, right? At least a few years ago. Not so much now. I mean, he's 35. He's been around for forever. But when he shows up, he's good. His hands are good. He's got a solid ground game. His wrestling's pretty good. He mixes up the kicks, the stance switching. Like, Fili's a technical fighter, man. Like, at one point, I was actually really high on Andre Fili. But over the past several fights, it's just hit or miss, right? Knocks out Lucas Almeida, gets knocked out by Dan Ige, beats Cub Swanson by split decision. That was a fun fight, right? Loses to Mel Costa. Melky Costa's on a crazy run, though. And then, beats, C-Rod by split decision. That was a crazy close fight. And that's a pretty good win against C-Rod. But I feel like Jose Delgado I think he's for real, man. I think he goes out here and runs over Andre Fili in the very first round. We have seen that Delgado is dangerous the entire fight. He's got a good gas tank. He's got very good output. He's got, this ranginess to him where that is going to be canceled out in this fight because Fili, he's got a big frame for the featherweight division. These guys are the same height, same reach. But I feel like the speed advantage is clearly on the side of Delgado. He switches stances very well. He's got nasty kicks to the body, really sharp boxing, good movement, very elusive. His ground game that we've seen is pretty good as well. So I don't know if Fili just, dives in for, takedowns. We saw him basically dive headfirst into a guillotine of Mel Costa. So maybe, he sets up an opportunity for Delgado, to get a submission here. But I'm going to say that Delgado is going to come back better than ever from this Nathaniel Wood fight because I think Nathaniel Wood is definitely better than Andre Fili. And that's not an easy fight, Nathaniel Wood, man. He's a true test for these prospects. And before that, what we saw from Delgado running over Hyder Emil, and I predicted that, right, to knock him out. Hyder Emil's way too reckless. Easy work of Connor Matthews. And that nasty KO over Juarez on the Dana White's Contender Series. Delgado's dangerous. He's got great movement, great versatility. I think he runs over Andre Fili in this fight in the very first round, gets right on the gas, doesn't let Fili get a feel for the fight. I think he's knocking out Touchy-Feely, man. Give me Delgado. Next up, we got Umar Sy versus Ion Cutelaba. Now, this is kind of an interesting matchup because Umar Sy is a guy that kind of had all this hype, and it feels like it's completely dead. It feels like his hype is completely died out. It's the light that was shining bright, and now it's dim, and you might have to change the bulb. That's what we got here with Umar Sy. But I'm not out on Umar Sy. He's 30 years of age. He's 6'4", has an 83-inch reach. He has a massive reach advantage in this fight. An 8-inch reach advantage over Ion Cutelaba, who's going to want to close the distance, get into the pocket, basically kind of get into that brawling boxing range, possibly mix in some takedowns. But the issue is, while Cutelaba is dangerous at all times, and he is a dog and a savage, and it's crazy that he's 32. He's been around for forever, man. He's got a ton of experience. So he's 32 years of age, but in fight years, he's older than that. He's taken a ton of damage. Cutelaba is not an easy fight. He's never an easy fight, really, for anybody other than the high-level guys, right? Knocking out Tanner Dawser, loses to Felipe Lins, not a particularly great look, who, by the way, just got booked to fight Francis Ngannou. How crazy is that, right? Beat Ivan Erslan, submitted Ibo Aslan, but we're seeing Aslan's completely overrated. Lost to Modestus Bukauskas by split decision. I picked Bukauskas, but I thought Cutelaba won the fight. So he's not easy. He's not an easy guy to deal with. And what we've seen from Umar Sy since coming into the UFC, submitted Tuco Tucos, beat Dawoon Jung by decision, right? Loses to Alonzo Menefield, to where this was the fight where all the hype went away. He just was so hesitant in this fight. He never even gave himself a chance to win. And I know Menefield hits hard, right? And I think that Menefield is more dangerous than Cutelaba, especially in the striking. And then, was able to get Brenson Hibero out of there. I feel like we all saw that coming. I have a hard time trusting Umar C, but I'm not out on him yet. I think he goes out here and puts on a nice performance, and I think that he's more aggressive in here. We're in the apex. You don't have the crowd involved. I feel like fighters are they feel maybe less pressure in the apex. There's not this big arena and all the fans, and it just feels like fighters fight a little bit more calm and composed, especially the prospects. And I feel like this is a great, not that, because he won his last fight, but a great bounce back opportunity against a name that people know in Ian Cutelaba to go out here and kind of right the wrong from the Alonzo Menafield fight. Because despite running over Ribeiro, people are still, kind of hanging their hat on that Alonzo Menafield fight a little bit. I'm not buying into that. I think Umar C sticks the jab from range, uses his rangy tools, keeps Cutelaba at the end of his strikes, and I think he mixes in the grappling here. And I think he's able to sting Cutelaba with a shot, get to his takedowns, get to the back, and ultimately find some sort of submission after C is kind of softening him up with some nasty ground and pound. I think Umar is very well-rounded. Good striking, right? Tends to be a little too cautious, a little too patient, a little bit, maybe overthinking things, a little bit too mathematical. But I think he's got all the skills, man. I think he's the more well-rounded fighter. But Cutelaba's got the experience. You can never count out Ion. He's been in these very close fights, even when he's losing. I think Umar C, though, has the skills to be able to go out here and get it done. He's well-rounded, doesn't really have many holes in his game other than being too hesitant. Doesn't have a ton of power in his hands, but I like his ground and pound. I like his submission game. I think he softens Cutelaba up and locks in a submission in round number 2. If not, I think he outscores him and wins a decision, but I'll say submission. I like the ground skills of Umar C. Our co-main event of the evening, we got Amanda Lemos versus Jillian Robertson. This is a co-main event in 2026, man. I get it's the apex, but the battle of two styles. Wasn't this fight rebooked? This was supposed to happen like a few months ago or something, and Lemos was stepping in on short notice and then had to pull out. I don't know why, medical reason or something. I don't remember, but she pulled out. And so this fight didn't happen, and now here we are. So extra time to prepare. Lemos is getting a camp. Jillian Robertson, more time to prepare. And Jillian Robertson's well coached, and she's made a lot of adjustments in her career. I think she's working with Dean Thomas, right? So she's well coached. She's got some great fight minds around her. She's going to come in very prepared. And Jillian Robertson on the feet is not very good. Her striking is the one thing that it's gotten a little bit better, but it's not particularly good. But that's not her game. Her game is to kind of pitter-patter with some shots on the feet, get to the clinch, get a hold of you, and get the fight to the floor, where she's got good ground and pound, good control. She just kind of flows well on the ground. She's got a good submission game. But I feel like a lot of people are going to overlook Amanda Lemos in this fight. And I understand that Amanda Lemos is almost 39 years of age. I understand that she's shown questionable fight IQ at moments. She's been out-grappled before. She gets caught in a standing arm triangle or whatever it was against Jessica Andrade. Maybe it's on here. It's not, but that happened. Okay, gets dominated by Zhang Weili. We know how good Weili is, right? Okay, beat Mackenzie Dern 2 years ago. If you run it back, maybe Dern gets some get back there. Gets subbed by Virna Jandiroba, but I think Jandiroba is better than Robertson on the ground. Beats Yasmin Lucindo. That's a pretty good win. Lucindo's kind of a brighter prospect on the rise. And then Tatiana Suarez. Suarez didn't really do anything other than control her with the wrestling. And Lemos was being a pain in the rear end for Suarez for a lot of that fight. And I feel like Suarez is a better wrestler than Jillian Robertson. Now, you could say Robertson is a better overall MMA fighter, but is it by a lot? That's kind of my question. And when you look at these wins of Jillian Robertson, and I know at some point you got to get thrown into the Shark Tank, for a chance to kind of, stake your claim. But, she got outscored and got kind of beaten up by Tabitha Ricci, who was able to neutralize the ground skills for the most part, right? Okay, so she beat Poliana Viana, someone that's not UFC caliber. Beat Michelle Waterson Gomez. And almost 2 years ago, Michelle, to me, she was a shell of herself almost at this point, right? Luana Pinheiro, decent win. Marina Rodriguez getting the stoppage, pretty decent win. Again, tall, rangy striker. I could definitely see Jillian Robertson controlling Lemos, winning minutes, winning a decision. Maybe, she does catch Lemos in a submission because we see Amanda make some bad decisions, especially on the ground. But I'm going to side with Amanda Lemos for the upset here. I'm actually kind of surprised that she's an underdog. I guess it's because of her age and, because she's shown some lapse in judgment when the fight hits the floor. But I feel like if Jillian Robertson is not able to get her down, man, is she in a world of trouble. It is night and day on the feet. I feel like Lemos is way better than Robertson on the feet, to where I feel like Robertson is a little bit better than Lemos on the ground. I don't think Lemos is this scrub on the ground, though, like people make it out to be. And as long as she doesn't make some boneheaded decisions when, allowing Robertson to lock in some sort of easy submission. I think Lemos is going to be a pain in the rear end for Robertson to deal with. She's got decent takedown defense. She's very physically strong for the weight class. She's way better of a striker here. Way better. And I know you could say, oh, well, Robertson's got the grappling threat, so it opens up the striking. I don't know that that's one of these cases. Robertson's not dangerous on the feet. I don't think Lemos is going to have any respect for her striking whatsoever. I think she's going to walk her down, utilize footwork. I know it's in the apex, the smaller octagon, so maybe that helps Robertson a little bit. I think Lemos sprawls and brawls, man. And Robertson's wrestling is not that good. And I know she's improved, and I like Jillian Robertson. I actually think that she's like a brighter fighter on the rise in the strawweight division. She's been around for a while, but she hasn't kind of had that, big opportunity, and this is it. This is it. So, sure, she could go out here and get the job done. I think that, her ground game is better than Lemos, but I don't think it's by a whole heck of a lot. And I think on the feet, Amanda is way better. I think that, yes, Robertson has, more time to prepare for this fight, but also Amanda's not on short notice here. She's going to have time to actually prepare for this. I think Amanda Lemos is going to outstrike Jillian Robertson on the feet. If she gets taken down, she'll work back to her feet. She does a good job with the butterfly guard, kind of being a pain in the rear end to control. She'll threaten with the ninja chokes as well up against the fence. I just think this comes down to Robertson's ground game is good if she can get it there, but getting it there is the question. I don't know that it happens for all 15 minutes. So I'm going to say Amanda Lemos does enough to stop the takedowns, keep it on the feet to where she has a huge advantage. I think she outstrikes Jillian Robertson and gets it done. I mean, Amanda Lemos has been in there with some of the best fighters on this weight class. She's been around for a while. She's an OG. I think that she's going to be able to work Jillian Robertson on the feet and win a decision based on damage and the striking. Give me Amanda here. Last but not least, we have arrived at the co-main event, and if you guys enjoy this video on my content, if you could do me a favor, please give the video a like, sub it up, and yeah, man, let's get into this main event. I appreciate it. We're on the road to 10K subscribers. So, we have Josh Emmett versus Kevin Vallejos. So, this to me is the fight. This is the fight for Kevin Vallejos, where if you beat Josh Emmett and you do it in impressive fashion, or you put on some sort of striking masterclass, or you put on a great showcase, this is the win that catapults you into the featherweight division with a massive fight next. Now, I know you could say, oh, well, he's coming off of a crazy knockout victory over Giga Chikadze, which was unbelievably impressive to do that to Giga. But Kevin Vallejos is a guy that I've been picking every single fight. And Kevin Vallejos, his only loss in his career was to Jean Silva. So hopefully we get that rematch in the future, because Kevin Vallejos, man, at 24 years of age, this dude is one of the most sensational prospects in the UFC right now. Without question, his boxing is really, really good. Reminds me a little bit of Ilia Topuria. And who put on a masterclass and beat the brakes off of Josh Emmett? Ilia Topuria. Now, I'm not saying that Vallejos is not Ilia. He's not Ilia. All right? But there are some similarities. And I think that he's going to be able to approach this fight rather similar to Ilia did. And how crazy is it that Josh Emmett has only been knocked out once in his career? And he went in there 25 minutes with Ilia. Now, he got battered around, dropped, and just got destroyed. I mean, literally total domination by Ilia. But somehow Emmett would not go away. And the guy to knock him out brutally was Jeremy Stephens, right? And I know Jeremy Stephens, hardest hitting 145er right here. Jeremy Stephens is violent, dude. I call him the Freddy Krueger of MMA. Violent dude, man. Josh Emmett's not easy to put away, but he's also 41 years of age. And over his last 5 fights, where's his confidence going to be? He got subbed by Yair Rodriguez, was getting dotted up on the feet before Emmett got into a takedown and ended up getting subbed. Right, the Ilia Topuria masterclass that Topuria put on that got him a title shot. Went out there and brutally flatlined Bryce Mitchell. That was a vicious KO. And we know about Josh Emmett. I mean, his wrestling's solid. His takedown defense is okay. Right, his overall wrestling game, it's good, but we don't see it anymore. He's 41 years of age. He doesn't wrestle. He's basically a pocket boxer, basically with a spammy overhand right and a decent left hook, and that's about it. Doesn't have an active lead hand whatsoever. Right, goes out there and just gets outpointed by Lerone Murphy, and most recently just got ran over by Yusuf Zalal, to where Zalal thought he was Hamzat Chimaev, right? Took Emmett down with a beautiful blast double, shot a takedown right away, put Emmett flat on his back, and got him out of there so quickly. We've never seen anybody do that to Emmett. I feel like the writing is on the wall, man. Josh Emmett is the true test. Like, I know Giga Chikadze to me is a much better striker than Josh Emmett, but given the fact that Giga's more technical, more versatile, Emmett has the power, and for some reason it feels like the UFC values that Emmett win for these prospects to get you a huge fight. Like, am I wrong there? Like Emmett is that test because he's durable, he's got crazy power, and it's like as long as you're in there, you're at risk of getting knocked out. But I feel like Kevin Vallejos is going to put on an absolute clinic against Josh Emmett, and I think he's going to be able to stop him in round number 3. And I know you could say, oh, well, Ilia Topuria put on a masterclass, and he wasn't able to stop Josh Emmett, and I understand that. But also, this is Josh Emmett quite a few years later, and a guy that's 41. He's taken a lot of damage throughout his career. Where's his confidence at? I shouldn't say he hasn't taken he's taken some damage in a couple of the fights. But again, like Josh Emmett, like the last solid win that he had, right? I mean, the Bryce Mitchell KO was sensational, but when he's in there against these good strikers, he's a step behind because he's way too one-dimensional. He's very easy to read, and I feel like he's a tailor-made matchup to make Kevin Vallejos look good. This is great matchmaking by the UFC to build Kevin Vallejos. And is there the chance that Emmett could, go bombs away on the feet, throw that big right hand and catch him, and, that tight left hook and catch Vallejos on the way in? Absolutely, it's possible. But I don't think it happens. Emmett stands very low in his stance. I feel like Emmett should have moved up to lightweight a while ago. I know he cuts a lot of weight to get to featherweight. He's a big featherweight, like not in terms of his height, but, he's got a 2-inch reach advantage here, but he's a big dude, man. So I don't know that Vallejos, who's got a solid ground game, I don't know that he's able to, dominate Emmett on the floor. I feel like this is the tailor-made matchup to where as long as you don't get clipped by a big shot, Vallejos will be out-voluming him, will be out-striking him, mixing up the calf kicks, getting into the pocket, letting his hands go. Kevin Vallejos is very good at all ranges, man. He's got that good high guard, really good head movement, really fundamentally sound defense, and that's what we've seen throughout his career. He's been spectacular, man. Knocking out Cam Teague on DWCS, knocking out Choi, right? Winning against Danny Silva, which again, Danny Silva's as tough as they come, man, and he's a very methodical striker. He's not as dangerous as Emmett, but he's a more methodical striker in my opinion. Danny Silva's a better boxer than Josh Emmett. Right, and then goes out there and flatlines, Giga Chikadze. That was insane, man. Absolutely insane. So I think Kevin Vallejos is going to come out patient in the first round, have that boxer's-like approach. He's going to build his reads, kind of see what Emmett's going to look to do. And then he's going to start to open up a little bit more in the second round. You're going to see him getting closer with those bigger shots. You're going to see him starting to land some of those big shots on Emmett. Emmett's going to start to slow down, and Emmett does not wear damage very well. He gets hit and just his face balloons up very quickly, man, which that affects your vision. Obviously, you're getting the welts on your face. It starts to slow you down. I think that's what we see in this fight, man. I think Vallejos is going to be patient, fight behind the jab, rip nasty boxing combos to the body, attack the lead leg of Emmett. He stands very bladed and very heavy on that lead leg. I think Kevin Vallejos goes out here and puts on a clinic and is able to get the stoppage over a 41-year-old Josh Emmett who's taken a lot of damage. He's slowed down a little bit. I know he's got the power where he can never completely count out Emmett, but this is a tailor-made matchup, in my opinion, to make Kevin Vallejos look really good. I think he just picks him apart with the boxing. And, maybe Emmett looks to grapple. I feel like that would be kind of smart, but even if he does, that'll wear on his gas tank. It'll wear on his gas tank. Vallejos has a good ground game. He's solid everywhere. He's got a fire hydrant for a head. He's durable, right? Obviously, durability is not going to matter too much if you get clobbered by a big, Josh Emmett meaty shot, right? But I feel like Vallejos is way better. He's got the volume on his side, the technique on his side. Emmett maybe a power edge for sure, but Vallejos, he can crack, man. He's got some power. He's a more versatile, dynamic striker. I think Kevin Vallejos absolutely tunes up Josh Emmett like a brand new guitar and makes it look easy. So I'm going Kevin Vallejos by round 3 KO. Patient approach in round 1, more aggressive in round 2, starting to find his reads, comes out really confident in round 3, puts the work and the heat on Emmett and is able to get a stoppage and get him out of there. And this is the kind of win, man, that catapults him right up the rankings into the top of the division. So massive opportunity for Vallejos, 5-round fight night main event here. I think he goes out here and absolutely destroys Josh Emmett and puts on a clinic. And this dude is one of the best prospects in MMA right now, man. Without question. Once that get back for Jean Silva, hopefully we see a huge rematch between those two at the top of the division at some point. That would be cinema. But I'm going Kevin Vallejos, man. I've been high on him, and I think he goes out here and easily handles business against Josh Emmett. Got a ton of confidence in Mr. Vallejos. Love his boxing, love his style, super fun to watch. He's getting it done. If you guys enjoyed this video, man, please give it a like. Let me know what you think down in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss an upload. I would greatly appreciate it. I will see you all next time.